We did 25 first that were 5 meters 15 long,
Yeah.
the overall length of the car. And then when we found out that they were going to restrict the overall length of the car to 5 meters for the series, for the FIA GT Racing Series,
Yeah.
we had to cut 15 centimeters
That's a lot.
out of the car, yeah.
And where did you do that?
We did it in the front, basically. We changed the front slightly, and I think
Yeah.
it's very hard to see. So check your MC12 to see if you have the long nose and the short nose.
Get the measure out immediately. Welcome back to another episode of Kid in a Sweet Shop. Today is all about one of the most beautiful cars ever designed. It's my favorite supercar, and that is the Maserati MC12. And who better to guide me around these? I mean, they're literally just, I pray to these cars, is the designer himself, Frank Stephenson.
Hi, Jody.
Hi, thank you. Oh my goodness. I mean, you're like such a hero. For me, these cars are just, they just make me speechless. It's been my favorite car since it was designed, when you first did it. I mean, tell me, how did it all happen?
Well, Jody, this is a very special car even for me. It marks, I think, one of the highlights of my career because I don't think too many designers ever get a chance to really get into the racing side of the design business.
Yeah.
And I was very fortunate to be at the right place at the right time. I mean, how many people get a chance to work for a company like Maserati in the early days of the new era?
Yeah.
And it was at the time when Maserati was thinking about getting back into racing. They obviously didn't want to get into Formula One. That's Ferrari's territory. Their cousin or very close family member. So they had to look at a championship that would allow them to express themselves, obviously in a very sporty way. And so Maserati's choice was, we're going to go into the FIA GT.
The GT1, right?
Which is the long distance endurance type racing cars.
Yeah.
And this was their idea to come in and really make a good whack at it and show the competition what they're capable of doing.
I mean, it's just so beautiful. How long was the process of designing this?
Extremely quick. I mean, it only took us about 4 months from the initial concept, the ideation phase, to get the shape of the body, get the engineering done, all the aerodynamic testing, and get it ready for competition. It took about 4 months, literally.
I mean, that's unheard of, no? That quick.
That is, unheard of. But I think when you're doing racing projects, it's the way you work in a race team. You work flat out. You work basically 7 days a week, very intensely. Everybody's very motivated. There's a lot of energy in the team. I mean, of course, we had to start with the chassis that was existing. We had to start with an engine block that was existing. So
where did they all exist from?
So the car originally started out as an Enzo.
Right.
And that's where it becomes a little bit, where people are a little bit confused thinking it's a rebodied Enzo, and it's not that at all. It has a much longer wheelbase, so we've pulled the front wheel forward. We've extended the overhangs, front and rear.
Yeah.
The inside is completely different. The engine has been obviously breathed on in different ways. There are a few carryover components from the Enzo, but realistically, anybody who knows this car inside and out would never compare it to directly with an Enzo. It's almost its own car. I
mean, the most kind of iconic things are these amazing kind of, I mean, what's the technical term? But they're on the road version as well.
They are, yeah. Those are very distinctive for the MC12. I think if you think of an MC12, you think, you see that in your head as partly the definition of the car, I would say. But there's a very interesting reason for that.
Yeah.
The reason is we had to make a huge hole in the bonnet, in the hood area here, and there's a restriction of how large that hole can be. And if you could fit in the road version a baby's head into that hole, then you have to close it up in one way or another.
But are you joking?
No, I'm serious.
The size of a baby's head?
Yeah, there's a certain size of a baby's head, and if it could actually get hit and fall into that hole, you have to find a way to cover the hole in such a way that his head wouldn't get caught in there.
That's extraordinary.
Knowing we were going to have to make 25 of these for road use, so that was a consideration that we had to take in advance.
Got it.
So the only way I could think of doing it in a way that sort of gave it some character was to design in the strakes that would prevent.
These are called strakes.
They're strakes, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, they give it a lot of character.
They're so unique.
Yeah, people wonder why they're there. Well,
now I know.
And now you know
the baby's
the rest
head.
of the story.
I can't believe it.
Yeah. Yeah, the car was pretty much in a class of its own.
It was pretty much unbeatable.
It was unbeatable. Yeah, it was a bit like if you found one of the major track stars in the world or tennis stars or somebody, you just expected them to win. Big part of that.
It's your Federer of cars.
It's your Federer of cars, yeah. You're Roger Federer. If you didn't win, something was wrong.
I mean, I just love it. And I remember, because I was racing for Maserati at the time when this came out, and I was doing the Trofeo, so I was doing the little baby. It was the Grand Sport, which you also designed.
Yeah, it was the 4200.
And so I was racing in that, and then this came out, and I just remember, and I was up at the factory, and I think I saw it for the fact, and it was just like,
special.
I mean, and it still has that effect on me, this car. It just is so unbelievably beautiful. I can't even cope.
I guess I get your feeling, because I have the same feeling, strangely enough. It's kind of one of those unicorns of design.
Total unicorn.
You don't see them very often. If you do, it's like a moment in history where you remember where you're at, what time of the day, everything.
Yeah, talk me through
to the front.
all the way, and then we'll finish with the booty.
So if we look at the front, the first thing you want to do with a road car is a lot more than on the race car. You want to give it its own distinctive face, and that means Maserati. So with Maserati, you have to think back about the emblem, the logo of Maserati, which is the trident from Neptune.
Yes.
Little hook here, the little peak that you see here is very distinctly Maserati. You know, you have that on the pitchforks here. So we kept that theme. One of the things I distinctly don't like is
these covers.
I like the covers. And we don't have them here. They're on the race car for certain reasons again. But here, we've run a few of them with the lens covers, but the problem is condensation.
Yeah, they get kind of cloudy.
They get humidity in there, the bit of moisture and things like that.
Yeah.
But we didn't have a lot of money to spend on the car, so all of these lights here are basically bought off the shelf.
Really?
Right? So they're sealed by themselves. They don't need a lens over top of here. So, I mean, they have a jet wash, you can see there, to keep them clean and things like that. But basically, it looks a lot better. If you look at a Dino, a 246 Dino, they look a lot better, I think, for me, my taste, when you have the lens covering over the headlamp.
I totally agree.
Yeah, so it continues, what it does, Jody, is it continues the shape all the way through. So you'll see a highlight outside running through here, through the lens, and it completes it.
It finishes it.
Yeah, it finishes it.
I was about to say, these are different.
Yeah, there, of course, doesn't have to pull out as much air as on the road version. So what I did here was basically a line. If you took a theoretical line through the vents, it would line up through here like that. So it feels right?
Yeah.
And then another thing is, we did two versions of this car. One that was equal to the length of the race car version, which is 5 meters 15. And then we had to reduce it to 5 meters to meet the regulation change.
So you produced them and then had to change the car?
Yeah, we did. We did 25 first that were 5 meters 15 long, the overall length of the car. And then when we found out that they were going to restrict the overall length of the car to 5 meters for the series, for the FIA GT Racing Series, we had to cut 15 centimeters
That's a lot.
out of the car,
And where did you do that?
We did it in the front, basically. We changed the front slightly, and I think it's very hard to see. So check your MC12 to see if you have the long nose and the short nose.
Get the measure out immediately.
Again, on the wheels, this was fun because you have a lot more liberty.
Yeah.
Obviously, red goes on the left on race cars, the single lock nut, and you have blue on the other side, so you know which side the wheel is going on.
Yeah.
And then we have, obviously, again, slightly
the
this
little
Maserati trident thing going on here. The clamshell bonnet, what we call a clamshell bonnet, because it comes from the side all the way over to the other side. Very large piece.
Opens up like that.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it really is.
Then the mirrors are a bit longer, sticking out on the stalks here, so you get better vision to the rear.
Yeah.
You know, more.
Yeah, because you don't have a rear view mirror in here at all.
There's nothing to see.
There's nothing to see.
Actually, you don't need to see something behind you in a car like this.
No, you don't, because there's not a lot behind you.
No, just look ahead.
Not that we speed.
Yeah, no. In town maybe.
In town.
Yeah.
Okay.
So again, there's a very racing influenced side to here, I guess you could say. There's not a lot of change between this and that one.
Yeah.
The wheels are not as far out. You can see that they have on the race car, the track is a little bit wider.
Yeah, yeah.
And then again, you start to get back in here.
Yeah.
Very much the same solution as on the race car. We have the heat coming out of the back here, so we needed to get that, what we call heat soak area. So if you're stopped at a stoplight, for example, and the engine's hot, you need the heat to go straight up. So we cut the slits in here. That looks very good. I was always concerned that it was a bit too much like an Alfa Romeo grille.
I see.
But nobody's ever said that. So.
And the snorkel's a bit different. It's like a, it's instead of having the little restrictors straight in. Yeah, the performance is a bit better in this car in terms of horsepower. Sound is a little bit different, obviously, because that makes a lot of difference. And this fantastic version here is basically, it's a blue tinted carbon fiber. It's beautiful.
So they bring in the clear lacquer over top with a bit of blue tint to it.
I love seeing the carbon fiber.
It's beautiful, To the posterior of the car.
These are outrageous.
Yeah, that's very racing oriented. There's in the back of this car, it's more about, like I said, get hot air out of the car as efficiently as possible.
This is just like all.
Well, we've advanced now. You'll see modern cars today, especially, you can see it definitely on McLarens. There is no rear end to the car per se. It's just basically as open as you can maintain it. Yeah. Here, obviously, we needed the rear lamps.
Expensive lights again.
Well, if anybody knows what a BMW catalog is.
Is that where it came from?
Yeah, I don't want to advertise BMW here. No, but it's a great catalog for automotive parts.
For kit cars.
So all these came out of BMW catalog, and they work very well.
Yes, no, they do.
Yeah, and the rear wing, you're limited to a certain width. You can't go any wider than the rest of the car. But if you're going to make a rear wing, then take it to the limit.
I mean, it's going to be wide because there's not many cars that have got a bottom
but I think that makes it. If we restricted it a little bit less, then you wouldn't have that impression behind that it's wide. Yeah. And we want the car to give you that wide. Plus, you're giving more surface area for the air to work off of. So the rear spoiler is as wide as it can be. It's about 2 meters, just over 2 meters.
Just this view up there, it's just so
sensual. I'm hoping you're saying it's organic in a way too. It's a lot of cars these days are being very, thought design-wise. The thought is going towards angular more than
they're aggressive.
Voluptuous almost.
Yeah, I love this. Yeah. This is just curvy.
Well, I think it's
beautiful.
Curves are timeless. Yeah,
not
I think
voluptuous.
There's a simplicity to it, obviously. Yeah, I think it's one of the secrets of timeless design is reducing, as they say, reduction is hard. It's easy to add, but it's hard to take away. And the more you can take away and simplify it, not make it boring, but simplify it, is a real good trade secret. Okay,
now the cockpit.
Yeah.
Call it cockpit?
Yeah, this is the business end of the.
This is the the engine's quite.
This is the office. This is the office.
This is the office.
Yeah, so this is quite.
I like this.
Yeah, I love that. That was not really planned. It's a material we called Britex, but we named it after we actually bought it. So what happened there was when we started doing the interior, I thought we have to come up with some kind of material that makes it unique. In other words, every car has basically leather on the inside or has
the
some
diamond stitch. Or,
Alcantara, all these things. But there had to be a different way to treat Maserati because Maserati being Italian, you associate it with culture and with fashion and all these things. Yes. So I thought there's got to be some company up in Milan, some fashion material supplier that will have some kind of material that should be unique enough to use in a Maserati.
Amazing.
And I made a few appointments and went up to visit some of the suppliers up in Milan. And without any luck, I went through about 3 or 4 during the morning. And in the afternoon, I went to this one on the outskirts of Milan. And he showed me his typical assortment of materials. And
you like this one?
I didn't see this one. I asked him.
Yes.
I'd like a suit in that, actually.
Yes.
But he said, I said, well, this is all the stuff I've been seeing already. I think, do you have anything that you don't really see too often? He says, well, we have one material that nobody likes. It just doesn't sell very well. And he rolled it out, and as soon as I saw it, which is this here, my first reaction was obviously, does it catch fire? Does it fade? Does it grip? All the things that we want it to be for automotive use.
Yeah, it does grip.
And it's soft, everything. So we basically said that's it and bought it and owned it.
And it's in every car.
Yeah, and everything was laid out to just be very, very easy to recognize. You don't want to have to discover things on this car. From an interior point of view, it's all about user ergonomics and the user experience.
Yeah, it's
so obviously
very simple, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you almost might think that the Maserati watch or clock is basically a little bit too old to put into this car, but it is Maserati's unique way of doing clocks in the cars. So we kept that. We had the start button right below it. But the one really cool thing was designing the rev counter on the interior. It was basically making a rev counter as the most important part of the display there, so you really know what's going on. Yeah. Race cars are all about keeping it up and
keeping them high. It's brilliant, lovely. Right, now we're going to go and have a look at where all this wonderful horsepower comes from.
This is the heart and soul.
You need to be quite tall to do these cars, don't you? And then lock that back.
Not for short Italians, that's for sure.
Yes, exactly. Now look at this.
So this is where things start to get a little bit crazy, Jody, because what we needed to do was change the performance of the Enzo to a race car, basically. So what we're looking at here is we got a different type of intake on the car, and we're taking it's not a turbo, it basically takes the air in right through the snorkel, feeds it into the manifold through there. A few elements on the suspension that have changed. I can't get too technical about it because I didn't work on the engine or the dynamics of it.
What's that relationship like that you've got to work with?
Mostly from a design point of view, you're really tied in closely with the aerodynamic team. So I was in the wind tunnel constantly with the aerodynamic engineers.
Yeah.
And basically we know the balance of the car, the CG, and the where basically all the material is located in terms of balancing the chassis, and we work around that. So what my preoccupation from a design point of view is meeting the air intake targets and the heat efficiency, the thermal dynamics we call it, of the car, and also making sure that the air that goes over the surface is controlled in such a way that the car handles well.
Yes. I mean, it's a mighty engine, isn't it?
Yeah, this is, I mean, in today's standards, it's not what we call, incredibly powerful, but the weight performance ratio is very good for a car of this era. Basically the power curve is very exciting in a car like this. The sound, it's a very visceral sounding car.
It's so throaty, and that's something that I love with Maseratis, which are very different tones to Ferrari. It's much more kind of higher pitched. There's just rawness of
It's
sound.
got a rawness to it. It does. It's a shame a little bit that we're going towards more turbo type cars, which lose that appeal to them. Even the hybrids and the electrics nowadays and hypercars.
No sound at all.
Yeah, you're losing one of the senses that makes a car like this intoxicating almost in a way. The sound sells the car sometimes even. Yeah, so this is one of the last cars, I guess, that you could say of the racing era that still you can drive on the road.
I mean, it's so unbelievably beautiful. I just...
Yeah. Well, Jody, we did this car in two colors, basically.
Well, the one I drove was beautiful white.
Yeah, that was pearl white.
Pearl white.
And we used a Maserati blue, a unique Maserati blue, sort of along the bottom of it, and that kind of took visual weight out of the product, of the car itself, because it is long, and the blue just ran up into the rear spoiler, so the car actually from a distance, from a side view, appeared to be smaller.
Skinnier.
And skinnier. And that actually emphasized the length of the car in a certain way.
And then you had this blue, this carbon fiber.
Yeah, this was an option, I guess, if you were a very, very, very good client, you could get another color.
What's that?
So there are only 2 or 3 clients, I think. Well, your choice pretty much, but I think we only went towards a dark blue or towards even once, I think we went to a black. This is a very, very unique.
I've never seen the black one.
Yeah, most people recognize this car not in this color, but as a pearl white.
The pearl white,
The first car we brought out at the 2004 Geneva Motor Show, when we launched the car the very first time, was the race version. So that was all a blue tinted carbon fiber with a Maserati big, trident plastered on the hood there, and it came across as being, that is the color of the car. But as soon as we came out with the road version in the two-tone white blue, the pearl white and blue, that became the color for the road car. So it looked really good.
Beautiful. It will forever be my favorite car. Forever.
You don't know it when you're designing these cars. It's it doesn't happen right away, but once you get, the project is behind you, you look at the reactions from the people who fall in love with it, you start to realize maybe this is quite special.
This is a very special car.
But yeah, if I look back in the history, this car is really definitely, like I said at the beginning, it's a high point, because it's not often that a road car designer gets a chance to work on a race car and a road car version of it at the same time. And that combination, I think, is the ultimate challenge for any designer.
And you
if
smashed
you get those two together.
You absolutely smashed it, I have to say. There you go, guys. I mean, I get goosebumps with this car, and I always will. But what a way to kind of experience a car, is having you to talk us through all the bits. And I hope you've enjoyed it. I have.